And there we go.
Success.
Welcome to Dynasty Playbook, where probably is spelled with 2 L's and no B's. It's good to be back again. I know it's been a little bit since we've been on the show, but we're back. I want to first, before we start anything, I want to give a big shout out to ffcouchcoach.com. They host the podcast on their site, and they do a lot of advertising for us. And we want to thank the guys who are putting on our new intro music, and that's Jason Helkema and Ben DePolis. And please, I apologize if I butchered that completely, but seriously, it's killer, and we really appreciate it. And I just wanted to give you guys a shout out. But let's get on with the show. How you been, bud?
Good. It's been 10 days since we recorded. Feels like it's been 2 or 3 weeks, but just 10 days, so we're good. And yeah, the intro music, that is some face-melting goodness right there. That's hardcore. I love it. So awesome. Huge thanks to those guys.
Yeah, and I forgot to bring it up, but for those of you who are listening for the first time, I'm your host, Drew. You can find me on Twitter at Drew.NFL. With me is my co-host, as always, Tyler. You can find him on Twitter at HBOMIDP. And, if you're here for the first time, just give us some chance to adjust. We're an acquired taste. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it works for us.
I'm okay with it.
That's fair. So we covered most of the free agency talk last week, but there have been these onesies and twosies that passed by. One of them being C.J. Anderson. He was going to sign with the Dolphins, and then he wasn't going to sign with the Dolphins, and he was going to sign with the Bears, and then he didn't. But now he's back in Denver. And that was the least interesting of the three, but I'm not that invested in C.J. Anderson anyways. So, I mean, he's probably got mid RB2 value to me, maybe low RB2.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a Broncos fan. I'm just like, whatever. Whatever. I mean,
yeah,
it's even from a real life perspective, fantasy perspective. I don't know. Just don't know that he's not a replaceable talent. I mean, he's a nice running back. He's powerful and whoop-de-doo, but I mean, he's got to be like a high-end RB2, right? Just based on workload alone. Even though the workload wasn't all that hot this year.
I'm thinking like somewhere between 15 and 20.
Yeah, that's the I'll never own him range, effectively. In terms of our rankings, sometimes we just rank a guy so low because we'll never own him.
Pretty much. And another huge move for Denver's offense. They traded for Mark Sanchez. Tyler, how pumped are you?
The Sanchez. I'm crazy enough that I want Colin Kaepernick, man.
I wish I was taking the crazy pills you are.
I remember the good times. I mean, the dude couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, but he can run really fast. So, hell, it cannot be worse than Peyton was last year. It can't. I mean, DT is still waiting on that 8-yard curl in the Super Bowl. It still hasn't gotten there. But he was just floating it, dude.
But y'all also lost parts of that defense. They're not going to be able to carry that team like they did with Peyton's broke ass.
Yeah, I just don't think it's a Super Bowl contender next year anyway. I really don't, especially now with God knows what at quarterback. They better have a plan, right? They have a plan. Elway has a plan.
Elway's plan was Peyton.
And then they just let Brock walk. They're just like, yeah, whatever. We're done with you. You're 6'8".
Bye.
Hit the road. It's not like Sanchez is the worst. Sanchez is serviceable.
Absolutely. I mean, he took a strong defensive team to 2 AFC championships.
Yes.
Solid.
Sanchez likes Zach Ertz. I like Zach Ertz. Maybe I'm just meant to be part of the Sanchez.
Maybe so. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you what Peyton's doing. Never mind. Not Peyton. Elway. I was going to use that as an opportunity to make a horse teeth joke, but it just
Yeah. Well, I
bombed.
trust him. When in doubt, trust Elway. It's always worked for me.
I guess that applies because you're old and you remember when Elway used to be important. Just, I want you to know that the last time Elway was relevant to playing football, my age was still in the single digits.
You got to be kidding me, dude. Stop doing that to me, man. I think I was like a sophomore in college. That second Super Bowl W. It seems like it was yesterday, but it wasn't, man. That was not yesterday.
That puts you right about 10 years older than I am because I would have been a freshman in college when the Saints won theirs in 2009. So
I'm old. Move on.
Why? It's fun for me.
I'm sure you're having a good time.
I'm always having a good time. I guess we'll just jump right into our rookie discussion for the week because I don't think there's any other relevant free agency moves, and if there are, they probably don't matter if we couldn't think of them. The only other one is Chandler Jones, and we're not getting into that here today. But our rookie for this week is going to be Pharaoh Cooper, wide receiver out of South Carolina. He's 5'11", like 200 pounds, and he's 21? He just turned 21, or is he about to turn 22?
Just turned 21.
Fantastic. So he's a youngin'. I'm very wishy-washy on Cooper because you see him, once he's got the ball in his hands, his open field vision is fantastic. His footwork is fantastic. He's breaking tackles left and right, just as good as any wide receiver that's playing in the NFL right now, short of Antonio Brown maybe. But the problem for me is, and it's a big problem because most of my evaluations really harp on catching and how they do in contested catches. And he's not a hands catcher. He's borderline a straight up body catcher. And he's not consistent in contested catches. So that's the big concern. He's also hardly ever played on the outside. Tyler pulled it up. It was, something like 80-something% of his snaps came in the slot.
It was like 600 out of 760, something like that, were in the slot.
Yeah, so, I mean, we don't know that he's going to be able to play against the better ability corners. Maybe he will. Maybe they lined him against. Man, I am tripping all over my words tonight. Maybe they just lined up their best corner in the slot. Who knows? There's not a ton of stuff to watch on him. There's only 3 games on Draft Breakdown.
Yeah, one's a 14 where he just smoked.
It was Miami.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, where he just got loose a few times. I think he's a better football player than he is a wide receiver. Is that a fair take?
I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, he's, like you said, after the catch, he's unreal after the catch. I mean, the dude is fast, and he is at top speed immediately. He's at top speed within 10 yards. So the dude can flat fly. They get him the ball in so many different ways. I even saw him at Wildcat, which is the worst formation in the history of everything, by the way. But I'm not real sure what to make of him as an NFL prospect. I mean, usage-wise, Tavon, Percy Harvin. I mean, we've seen guys like this be used in different facets of the game. I think he's a similar player to that. He's going to return kicks. I think you can almost guarantee that. So if you're in a return yard league, especially one that rewards a bunch of return yard points, he's going to be a nice target. But I just don't know. It's hard to get past the body catching. It's hard to get past the letting it into his forearms, in tight coverage. But he sure is fun to watch. Just not sure how that's going to translate to fantasy.
Right. And, we were talking about it before the show. I think really the best way he could fit in the NFL was as like a Danny Woodhead type. I feel like he'd probably be as good a running back as he is a wide receiver because all those things he does well are things that a running back needs to do well. I don't know that he's got good vision, On the inside, he probably doesn't, but it's something that might be able to be developed. Or maybe they use him as a Darren Sproles type, just send him on wheel routes and shit like that, and just let him make his own yards after the catch for days. Because I feel like I trust him more in that position than I would as a straight up slot wide receiver or even on the outside. He seems like he's going to be an unreliable type, and that makes me hesitant to invest in him. I've seen him go at the 111, 112, and I like a lot of his tape, but I feel like I'm going to be priced out of getting him. If he's around in the later second, I'd be all about it, but I just don't think that's a reality that I'm going to see.
It may be. The NFL draft's going to tell us what's up. That's the big thing left here is the NFL draft. But it's just going to depend on my league. The league that we're in with Joey, where we're getting 1 point for every 10 return yards. Where I took Tyler Lockett last year, I could be looking at Pharaoh Cooper, a similar type player that could score a bunch of points. But what is his fantasy ceiling in just a completely traditional 1 PPR, no return yards, no return touchdowns, anything like that? I don't know. I don't think you're looking at a guy that's ever going to catch 80, 90 balls in a season. It just seems pretty unlikely because of the type of player he is. So it's got to be one of those deals where his touches are manufactured and they're inconsistent and you're relying on boom plays. Just a real tough read on this guy. But I really like him as a football player, and he's young enough that there's some development to come. And he damn near dominated at the college level. Many games. He just took over. But I don't know. This is a tough one for me. NFL draft's going to tell me a lot, as far as where he goes and how early he's selected.
See, and that for me is going to be a huge thing, and that's why I didn't really bring it up. Because if he goes early enough in the NFL draft, he's going to have that late first, draft, or he's going to be taken around in that. I'm going to get it.
Thank God for editing.
No shit, right? He's going to fall in that 110, 111 range, something like that. But if he falls in the NFL draft, he's going to fall in real drafts. But if the NFL teams aren't taking him, I'm not invested enough in him to where I think he's worth the gamble. So, like I said, I'm pretty much not going to have him.
I don't know. Look at Stephon Diggs fell to the 5th round last year.
Yeah, but I like Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, but you're still getting a bargain on him. If you get that good of a football player in the late 2nd, early 3rd, I think you just do it.
But I was more confident about my Diggs eval. I don't know that
I was too.
I'm not saying you weren't. I'm just saying that I'm not as confident that Cooper is going to be that guy on the next level, despite what the NFL tells me.
That's fine. I get exactly what you're saying. I get all hot and bothered by these, multifaceted players. There's a guy, this Cordero Patterson character. You've heard of him. Same kind of deal there for me. Percy Harvin. I was in love with Percy Harvin. It's just when these guys are just such explosive athletes, I'm just naturally drawn to them.
You really didn't need to say Cordero Patterson.
It was on the tip of your tongue, too. I know it was.
Yeah, but I didn't say it because I wanted to have a good rest of my day.
I didn't say it. It hurts. It hurts.
We both did it. Oh, maybe y'all shouldn't trust our decision-making that much.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've hit on enough guys to where maybe it cancels out.
A 300 hitter in baseball is getting paid millions of dollars a year, so
that's fair.
If we draw that correlation, I think we're doing pretty well.
I'd say we're at least half and half.
Nah, we got a better hit rate than that.
That's why I said at least. I don't.
At least.
I haven't drawn out the numbers. I've gone back and listened to a couple old shows and seen what we've hit on and what we've missed on, but that's way too tedious, and I do not have the attention span for that shit. I don't. But with that, that's our college player discussion all wrapped up, and we're going to move straight into our submitted questions for the week.
All right. We got quite a few on Twitter. Always appreciate those. The first one's from @BigPerm3313 with Martavis Bryant out. What do you think of Coates, and who is the big winner, Ladarius Green, Coates, or does Pitt draft another receiver? And just kind of piggyback that question, our buddy Pat sent in a question as well, kind of dealing with the same subject. Assuming Pitt doesn't draft a wide receiver, how are we treating their number 2 option, who he is presuming is Ladarius Green? What do I think of Coates? Didn't really like him before, don't really like him now.
Second.
He's going to have some big games, and there you go. Him and Marcus Wheaton are each going to have some big games, assuming they don't draft someone. Do I think they draft a receiver? I don't think they draft one early necessarily, but would I be shocked to see them add a receiver or 2 in the draft? Not at all, because once you get to a certain point in the draft, they're just BPA in it, and it could be a receiver. Hell, it could be Pharaoh Cooper. Ooh, that would be kind of cool. And Pat's assumption that Ladarius is the number 2, I think that's – I don't know if I want to call him the number 2, but he's definitely the second most desirable fantasy target.
Second most talented.
Team. Oh, for sure. So, yeah, I mean, Ladarius instantly a top 7-ish tight end, I think, for me. You're probably going to have him top 1. But, yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. There's nothing going to change my opinion on Sammy Coates. I've always disliked him, and there's no reason for me to go out and start liking him now. But he's going to have a couple big games.
Yeah, and don't let those big games confuse you or throw you off, because with as much offense as the Steelers are going to produce, random players are going to have a good day. Let me stop and remind you all that Darius Hayward-Bay had good big games for Pittsburgh last year. So just stay calm. And I'm right there with you. We both thought Cooks was – oh, my God.
Coates.
We both thought Coates was essentially hot garbage last year. And my opinion's not changing. Just because the situation got better doesn't mean anything. It means if I did happen upon him in one of my leagues, it means I could sell him for something now, which I don't. And if you have him, sell him. Just make him go away. But pretty much, I mean, it's going to be Antonio Brown easy, and then I think Ladarius is going to eat. He's going to be probably a top 6 tight end for next year. I mean, even if they draft somebody, I don't see him going after somebody in the first round or 2. So after that, I mean, it's still a flyer. It's still a random shot guy.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, they could easily add a receiver or 2. No problem. I don't think it's happening in the first round, though.
Mm-mm.
So, yeah, I mean, Ladarius should get a pretty good chunk of the targets, and then Antonio Brown, I mean, my God. That's just whatever. All right, so Big Perm's got a second question here. If Breeze is the dark chocolate, what candy is Drew? Well, Drew, what kind of candy are you?
That's a good question. And I want to lean towards like the really sour candies where I don't want to hype myself up, but you enjoy them for a good while. But if you have too much of it, it's just, you can't handle it. It's gonna tear you up. I'm good in small doses, but you and I are ridiculous and will eat a giant bag of Sour Patch Kids in one sitting.
Yeah. See, for me, you are a lemon warhead. Because at first taste, you are a bitter, sour, angry little man. But after I get to know you, you're a good guy. You're genuine. I don't want to use the word sweet because you're not sweet, but you're palatable. So you are a lemon warhead because at first taste, it's just like, wow. This he's letting it fly. He's just going to say what's on his mind, which I respect. So, yeah, those that aren't privy to our little circle that we run in, we just say whatever we're thinking. Nobody's pulling any punches. You're just saying what's up. So if a stranger were to walk in there, it'd just be like, whoa, shit.
Yeah, a lot of us would probably have our local precincts called on us.
There you go.
A lot of murder plots have been hatched in the East vs. West Voxer group. But moving on from that, Our next question comes from our good buddy at 14 Team Mocker. Other than Zeke and Henry, is there any running back that, if the Raiders drafted them, would for sure start over Latavius? I think the only one that would be for sure is Howard for me, and I think it's because Tyler and I are both high on him. I could see Procise probably getting the nod over him. I like Procise a lot. Perkins, I think Perkins and Collins would at best probably split carries, but I think the only other one that's a lock-in would be Howard.
If they draft Henry, dude, Henry's gonna be the day one starter.
Well, he said Zeke / Henry. That's why I didn't bring him up.
Well, never mind. I don't know. Whatever. I mean, if we were talking to any number of individuals who have an axe to grind with Latavius, they'll tell you any running back in the entire draft would come in and take over for him. And most likely scenario outside of Zeke or Henry is a timeshare, assuming they add someone. So I liked Darter popped in on this, which is always fun when he pops in. He said, Halu's going to take it. I like that take. I don't agree with it, but I like it.
We have both been known Halu truthers, so you can take that with all the grains of sand. He shouldn't have been completely ignored like he was last season. Maybe he was injured like they say. Maybe he wasn't. All I know is that he didn't get any carries. He got less than 20 carries, something like that.
Yeah, he was more or less useless. I mean, no, not more or less. He was completely useless.
Yeah.
In fantasy and in the real world and whatever. And free agency, the dust is settled. I think it's going to be Latavius' job.
So I've had a couple conversations over the weekend. I've been doing some mocks, and I'm in some random Twitter chat groups now. But Oakland would be a favorable landing position for Zeke, right? That would lead to a starting running back job, and that offense wouldn't cap his production. Do you think?
That would be one of the more optimal spots he could go. They just spent a ton of money on the line. It's a good offense. It's going to be balanced. They're not going to be able to load the box. I think it would just be a fantastic spot outside of, Dallas, a couple other spots. It's as good a place as he could go. And I've seen him consistently mocked to Oakland more than anyone else. 15 feels about right for the first RB. That's I don't want to say it's probable, but it's a very good possibility. Yeah. Which would just smash Murray's dynasty value.
Oh, completely. And that would lock in
Trey Mason.
Except Trey Mason was good.
Latavius isn't bad, man. Come on.
I know, but I gotta make my digs at Waz.
There you go.
But I mean, if he goes to Oakland, he's more locked in at the one-on-one than he is now, and he's fairly locked in. I thought Oakland would be a good landing spot. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't alone.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic.
Honestly, I think I'd like him more in Oakland than I would in Dallas.
Well, I mean, in Oakland, he gets to play San Diego twice a year.
But he also has to play Denver twice a year and Kansas City.
Yeah. But San Diego twice a year, that's like 600 yards right there in 2 games. God, they're fucking terrible.
Dallas gets to play Philly, the Giants, and Washington. So
true.
That's 6 games of RB number 1 production right there.
Yeah, just a lot of speculation, but
oh yeah. But I mean, what else are we gonna do?
I don't know, Latavius. I'm just completely middle of the road on Latavius, so whatever.
I really am too.
All right, next question from @Tim Dynasty RZ. With the news of an Alfred Morris visit in Dallas, what's the best case sell high scenario? That'd be it right there.
Really, the best case sell high scenario would have been selling him after 2012, but
you can still get a decent return after 13.
Yeah,
I got Bobby Quinn for him straight up in the league.
All right, I remember
after 13. I was like, "This is a no-brainer, right?" And you're like, "Yeah, I think so." And yeah, it was. No, after 14. I don't know. Whatever. I got Bobby Quinn for him. But if he goes to Dallas, that's your absolute best case scenario to sell. There you go.
You just absolutely, without a second question, you have to sell him as soon as those papers get signed. Because if they've only got Alfred Morris, I guarantee you they're bringing in another running back.
Well, they re-signed Dunbar this week.
Oh, did they already re-sign him? I missed that.
They inked Dunbar. I think McFadden's under contract. I think. Alf, it's just, come on. Just come on. He's so bad.
He's just man enough to keep playing, but not good enough for us to care.
Well, and the whole thing is, it's like, I still think, well, Alfred Morris is pretty young. Alfred Morris has been in the league for a minute now, right? 12, 13, 14, 15, entering his 5th year.
He's in his 5th year, and he was not a young man when he came in.
Right, and he's had an ass load of carries.
Because he's been healthy the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of carries. So, yeah. Man, if I could get any second rounder for him, I'm out.
Oh, yeah. In a heartbeat.
Yeah. A third in IDP, I'm out. Just give me something with some upside because he just has none.
Nope.
So,
yeah. With that, we'll hit up our next question. Comes from the Reddit discussion group, and it's from Zelian Alted Jesus.
I'm sure there's something there, right?
There's letters, but
I'm sure it means something complex.
How is David Johnson's value affected by Chris Johnson re-signing? David obviously has the talent, but we all know that volume is greater than talent, and this threatens David's volume. I don't believe that volume is greater than talent because in due time, talent will create volume. If you're good enough, they're going to find a reason to get you the ball. It's why David Johnson was getting all the carries at the end of the season and Ellington was getting none. We've seen it time and again. Even if Johnson is cutting into some carries, David Johnson was more than productive on the carries he did have. It's going to be more than usable as a fantasy starter. He'll still be an RB1. He might be going from the RB3 this year to the RB6. He's going to do well this year, regardless of Chris Johnson or not. They can't look at what he did at the end of last season and think, let's play Chris Johnson. Old ass, busted ass Chris Johnson, who, in all fairness, I mean, he had a really, a good revival season last year, but how long can we expect that to last? He's just old.
Yeah. I'd say, Chris Johnson re-signing in Arizona is not necessarily best case scenario, but it's a really good scenario because we know Ellington's trash, right?
Yeah, garbage.
Okay, so we're not worried about Ellington. We never were. We aren't anymore. Chris Johnson coming back. We're going to re-sign a 30-year-old broken running back who did really well, okay? So that means the odds of them bringing in a draftee or a younger running back are very, very slim, or at least one that's going to challenge. So for his dynasty value, fantastic. For his short-term value, I echo Drew in that volume does not usurp talent. Volume has to be taken into consideration. It's definitely a part of it, but not enough that it's going to affect my dynasty valuation of David Johnson. We've already said several times this year since the season closed, we're not going to be acquiring new shares of him, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to value him as a top 5 running back because that's what he is. And the Chris Johnson signing doesn't move my needle at all. So I think it's a good thing.
I absolutely agree. It's just it's one of those moves where it's a smart move by Arizona. They solidified their depth. They did it for cheap, and they did it with a guy that knows the system already. Now they can take that capital and go get another guard to replace Cooper that they just traded away, or they can go get more linebackers because, well, I guess with Dion moving to linebacker and getting Jones, it's pretty cured up.
Dion's a linebacker. Mentor was pretty good last year.
I knew he would be. I told you 2 years ago that shit was going to happen.
He was pretty good.
No, Mentor sucks.
Yeah, I didn't want anything to do with him. I had nothing to do with it. I had him ranked fairly highly at one point, but then Dansby's floating out there. There's some talk of a reunion, Dansby to Arizona, which would be great. So, yeah, they're not going to spend any real capital on running back. So, cool. Next question. This is a cool question. At MPizzy45, strategy for a one running back league. He owns Arian Foster, Jay Ajayi, and Chris Ivory, and he also has the 105. Here's my strategy, in a one running back league. I don't give a fuck about running back. I do not care. Now, if it's a start, one running back, two wideouts, and you can flex like six guys, you're going to need some running backs. All right, you got to have them. But in general, the leagues I play in that are one running back, it's not that flex heavy. So I just don't even care at all. I'll start Chris Thompson every week. I don't care. The running backs you have, they're fine. If Arian comes back and gives you 8 or 10 games, that's cool. Jay Ajayi, whatever. Chris Ivory, I'm comfortable starting him on limited touches. I just don't care. And the 105, BPA, as always.
Tyler died.
Oh, God damn it.
Nope, there you are.
Just in time. Anyway, you probably missed all that. Don't care.
All I missed was that last part where you said, BPA after you brought up Ajayi and Ivory and all that. You're probably all right.
That's after you're shaking your head disagreeing with me.
Oh, yeah, no, I was disagreeing with everything you said because Foster is going to come back. If Foster comes back, he's going to give you like 8 to 10 minutes.
What the hell? What else are you going to do with him? What are you going to sell him for?
I didn't say drop him. I just said he's not going to give you anything.
Quit shaking your head at me when I'm talking about Arian Foster.
I will do what I want.
I mean, your Arian Foster slander will not be tolerated tonight. I realize that. That's why Pat had put, or somebody asked something the other day about Arian Foster versus CJ Spiller. I was like, give me guaranteed 10 games of Arian Foster, and I'm good with it. If you guarantee me 10 more, I'm cool with that. Given
how bad Foster has kept getting hurt, it would take like 3 seasons for you to get 10 games out of Foster.
I just can't. I can't let it go, man. I can't. I will not let it go. I love him.
And then Ivory, I mean, I stated my case on Ivory. I still think Yeldon's going to be a more than usable back. And I put my money on the table this week, $50 league fees with Pat over whether Yeldon is going to outscore Rawls in point per game this season. I pulled it out. I put it on the table. I believe in what I'm saying. And Mocker agrees with me. So, yeah.
And that's all fine and good. But, I mean, in a 1 QB league, if I can, if I'm starting Chris Ivory and he's getting 7, 8, 10 carries a game, cool with that because I'm not spending any real capital on running back. None. Unless my team is loaded. Then I'll go out and get a Gurley or a Le'Veon and try to win the thing.
Tyler, you got to realize we are the exception to the rule. Most people don't start 10, 11 offensive starters without a kicker or defense.
I forget that we've just gone completely insane.
Most people are starting like 8 or 9 offensive players. So, the one running back is kind of important. It would bump Henry, it would bump Howard both up my board and make sure I can fill the slot if I've only got a limited amount of slots to start. But overall, I don't like this class that much. And there's a few players, but 105 it just feels like that dead zone to me. I don't particularly like Henry. I don't like Corey Coleman at all. Michael Thomas, there's nothing wrong with Michael Thomas. He doesn't feel like a 105 pick to me, if that makes any sense. I'm irrationally high on Tyler Boyd. We both like Doxson. He's good. We both like Zeke. He's good. But both of them won't be available at 105. So you're looking at basically a bunch of guys that I don't want. Maybe Will Fuller. I'd take Will Fuller at 105. Random question. Who you taking, Fuller or Carew? Straight up.
Carew.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It was really close for me. I think I went Fuller on the coin flip, but it's like I said, it's a coin flip. They're super close for me right now.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really, really close for me.
Because they've both got questions, but they've both got obscene amounts of upside.
How about when Chad put out his metric comparables on Will Fuller, and it's just like, oh my God, those guys are all good at football.
Did you see he put out one for Carew too, and it was just as good.
Same thing.
Oh my gosh.
I like them both. I really like them both.
Oh, and it's funny. I'll sit there and I'll get all excited over Chad's comps for players. When the comp is good for a player I like, but when he puts it out for like Tyler Boyd or Nelson Aguilar, I'm like, we can ignore that one.
Like, what parameters are you even using here? Metrics.
Did you even watch the tape?
I love it.
Oh, I was talking to Chad about it the other day, and I thought a really interesting way to further his metric thing is take into account draft stock. Because if you look at some of the guys that perform comparably at the combine, Tyler Boyd is going to get drafted way higher than a lot of them did. And I don't know, if you look at the other guys that tested poorly that were picked highly, they've done well. Nuke did not have a good combine. If I had my notebook, I'd pull up a bunch of other names, but Ochocinco did not have a good combine. A-Rob short of his
name is Chad Johnson, okay? His name is Chad Johnson. Don't call him Ochocinco. That's horrible.
But he is not white enough to be Chad. Chad is a spoiled white kid's name. But we also have a Melvin, and he should have like glasses and like a tucked in short sleeve white shirt with the collar,
the flip flops with the socks, the whole works. But yeah, adding draft stock in would be another interesting data point for that model, which has been pretty accurate over the years. Chad Parsons, one of the guys I really trust. I know Drew does too. You want to talk about somebody who puts in the work. Chad Parsons puts in hours at this stuff. So
way more consistent than I've got.
Oh, absolutely. I see the numbers and I'm just like, but what does it mean? Because I'm not looking at all that. So
yeah, to give you all an example of how much I use combine numbers when I went to look into how Tyler Boyd compared, I had to ask people for websites to use that compiled all the data.
No, it was bad too.
It wasn't nearly as bad as
no, it was.
Sounds.
It was.
It wasn't.
But hey, he ran, like 0.3 faster at his pro day because that never happens.
He ran sub 4.5. He ran a full 1/10 of a second faster.
Yeah, whatever.
And I don't even have to take that into account. If you just look at his combine numbers, there are plenty of guys that have been successful with combine numbers like that. His tape is good. He is good. His production numbers are fantastic. His breakout age is fantastic. You can suck a dick.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm getting feisty.
Yeah, you are. Well, I mean, I can't say I didn't deserve it, but man.
What do you expect? And this one wasn't technically slated for the show, but I figure we owe Coach we owe him to cover it on the show. We talk a lot in the Voxer group, and Buck Allen occasionally comes up, and every time he comes up, I just type in Buck Allen equals bad at football. And he finally stopped and asked, like, why do you say Buck Allen is bad at football? I mean, he's not the GOAT or anything, but he's not that bad. And my response is, well, yes, he is that bad. He's very bad. And he wants to know why. And I've broke into it before. But the hatred's strong enough to where I'll rehash it. Buck Allen is not good at football. He has terrible vision behind the line and in the open field. His strength is nothing special. He can't break a tackle to save his life. He'd spend as much time grinding up on his guards as he does anything else. it's not a recipe for a good running back. The only reason he's been successful at all at any stage of the game is because he does catch the ball at an above average skill level. That's about all he brings to the game. He's really nothing special. He is already below replacement level talent. Just that's what I have to say about that. And if he's listening, I'm sorry. I don't dislike you as a person. I don't want you crowding up backfields with your badness.
With your janky ass. He's a thumper that doesn't thump. That's what I thought of when I first watched it. He's a thumper that doesn't thump. Like Drew says, he runs up the backside of his guards. He has no vision. A guy like that can't find the hole needs to be able to push the pile. He can't do that. His saving grace is his receiving skills, which are good. The cost of acquisition came into play for me. Like if I was able to get a PPR back in the late third or fourth round, yeah, I'll take Buck Allen. Cool, why not? But that wasn't the case. He was getting drafted in the second with David Cobb. And who was that other turd running back that was getting drafted right in there? That was another stinker.
Langford.
Langford, that's it. So, yeah.
It's the unstinkiest of those three turds.
The Langford's best of the bunch by far out of those three for me.
And I did not like Langford, but he can stay in the NFL. He's got enough talent to do that. He just shouldn't be starting.
Yeah, I can agree with that. But Buck, if Buck was cheap, yeah, I'm cool with it. But he's not. All right, plain and simple. So don't be surprised when Forsett leads the backfield in touches this year again, or Talaferro, or this year's version of Charkandrick West, or whatever. Anything could happen there. But Buck Allen at his current cost, that he's been since he entered the league, no thank you.
I'm fairly certain that last offseason I had Josh Robinson ranked over Buck Allen. And for those of y'all who don't know, I hated Josh Robinson. Tyler, how much did I hate Josh Robinson?
All the hate was
unrosterable.
I liked him, man.
I know you did, and it's
we all make mistakes. Fun, dude. He was fun.
Because he's fat, and fat people are funny, but it's not really what we're getting.
That statement.
What?
I resent that statement.
I'm putting it on too. I'm younger. I've got 10 years to catch up on you, and I'm only a pant size behind.
There we go.
I ranked Josh Robinson over Buck Allen. You know who else we forgot? Mike Davis.
Mike Davis, God almighty.
What happened? Because we want to talk about one we were both in on. Mike Davis, we were all in on that and just all over.
Dead. But the car goat, Carlos, my other late round running back, he's good.
He was not mine.
He good.
I had Zenner over him, I think. I did have Zenner over him.
That's just racist.
If anything, I would. The not racist thing to do would be to pick the.
Yeah.
This is way too in depth for me. I can't.
I shouldn't have done that. My bad.
My brain can't handle all that thought.
Carlos the man.
I had Cameron Artis-Payne over Carlos.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
But I think I situationed on that one.
Oh, and Cap's situation couldn't have been any better. And then Jonathan Stewart plays the entire season healthy.
Who saw that coming?
Jonathan Stewart lasted pretty much the whole season. I'm pretty sure he would have played through week 16 if they hadn't already clinched everything. So he sat a week or two. Jonathan Stewart, the glass man, Captain Peanut Brittle. Cap got like 20 touches on the season, I think. Craziness.
Not good.
Yeah, I would have said Cap. Yeah, Cap's going to get some burn this year because J-Stu's going to crumble. Weird season, man. Weird season.
Yeah, I mean, how many running backs actually played through the season, and then J. Stu was one of the few that did?
Jay Stu and McFadden lasted the whole year.
God, what is this? 2009, 2008?
Right. They couldn't even do it then. They couldn't even
McFadden
do
played
it when
his
they were young.
McFadden played his first couple seasons healthy.
I refuse to believe that.
Dude, do you not remember how good McFadden was when he first got in the league?
I do.
He
Do you know how many times he has broken my heart, like ripped it out of my chest, thrown it on the ground, and stomped on it?
probably about as many times as he's done it to me.
Like him and CJ Spiller, those are the two guys that have just killed me. They're dead to me.
See, I got all excited with McFadden coming out of Arkansas because not many running backs have come out and looking as good as he did. He was just hot fire. And then just, it was never an issue of talent. It was just, oh, I broke my everything again.
Every time. I mean, he was good. Wasn't he like the 3rd overall pick or something?
Something like that. I mean, who knows? The Raiders
And
pick high
well
every year.
deserved, but well deserved too.
Mm-hmm.
He was that good.
Oh, no doubt. It's just, he's got to be a trooper for going through as many brutal injuries as he did and keep coming back.
And now he's on like veteran minimum and
Still putting out the work, doing what he can.
if Dallas doesn't add anybody, he's viable week 1 next year.
Yep.
Who'd have thunk it?
Who'd have thought that he'd outlast Arian Foster?
I remember a trade in it's a league that we're in together. This trade went down. I can't remember when it went down, but it was Darren McFadden for Trent Richardson. And I was just like, what the fuck? Who cares? Turns out that's a pretty big windfall for the McFadden owner.
Hey, Trent Richardson signed in Baltimore. The comeback is coming.
Did you know we just completed that teams? 34 offensive players on each team. Trent Richardson was never even nominated. Now, go back in your time machine 3 years ago and tell me that's going to happen.
Oh, went from number 1 overall startup pick to number 1 overall fat ass.
I saw him number 1 overall startup pick several times.
Mm-hmm.
Several times. It was him.
Doug Martin.
Yeah, and then like AJ Green was in there.
Calvin.
Calvin, obviously. There just wasn't a whole lot going on there because we hadn't had this infusion of youth, and Julio just broken his goddamn foot. And
it wasn't Cruz was right in that conversation right about then too.
Yeah, Cruz was a first-round startup pick.
I just couldn't remember if it was that year or not.
Probably about that time. Cruz
I feel like it's been a decade since Cruz broke out.
He was good. Oh man, that's another one that hurts. That hurts deep because
that candle burned out quick.
At one point in time, he was probably my most owned player. I had this like weird affection for Victor Cruz, and I mean the dude, he's 30 now. Hadn't taken a snap since that fateful day. Patellar, just kiss of death, man. Kiss of death.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of why everybody's writing off Jimmy, and rightfully so.
I mean, it's nothing to do with Jimmy Graham. Nothing.
It's not like we're saying, non-talented players haven't been able to come back from this injury the same. Like, Victor Cruz has been as good as a wide receiver as Jimmy Graham has been a tight end. And it's just robs you of everything. Robs you of any explosiveness you had because not only if it might not recover right, but you never trust that knee right again.
Yeah, you tweak it wrong, you're getting your fucking lower leg amputated.
Yeah, and I like my lower leg where it is.
I'm cool with mine.
Attached to my knee is my favorite place for it to be.
It's a pretty good spot. But yeah, that's sad. Victor Cruz, and he's 30. Victor Cruz is 30. I mean, who saw that coming?
Well, I feel like Cruz saw that he was going to turn 30.
Victor Cruz is the poster child for just nailing that 5th-round rookie pick. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Or plucking him off the wire, which probably happened more often than not. Man, that's sad.
Oh. Ruined my day. But I figure I'm going to touch on one more thing. It's not really a rant because I'm not going to get all worked up about it. But I've been doing a mock draft with one of the guys over the Dynasty Nerds at Dynasty Kyle ADP Dynasty ADP Kyle, and I got the number 3 spot. Nuke and OBJ went off the board, and then I took Mike Evans, and I got a ton of flack for it. And I mean, I guess I get it. People like Julio, people like Brown, but it should not be that shocking that Evans goes at 3. He had 1,200 yards this season with a rookie quarterback, no viable second option for at least half the season. He would have been an easy wide receiver 1 had his touchdown numbers not been incredibly low. And it's because Doug Martin was stealing all them touchdowns. But Evans is going to give you 80 to 90% of Julio or Antonio Brown for the next 2 or 3 years. And then they're going to retire, and Evans is still going to be just hitting his prime. So to me, it's a kind of a no-brainer decision, especially in a startup draft where you can't predict who's going to be competitive day one. It's just, especially that early in the draft, go with the guy that you can build your franchise around for the next 5, 6, 7 years. And I know that's kind of off topic, but people brought up, it's like, I wonder if they're going to bring it up on the show. And I decided to just do it because why not?
Why not? We had a short show anyway. But yeah, I get where you're at there. I mean, it's the off season. If we're not arguing about wide receivers, what else are we doing? That's just what we do in the off season, especially on Twitter. We argue about wide receivers, and we argue about age versus production, and it's just whatever. It's just the way it goes. But we were talking about it earlier, and I'm thinking, man, I'm not real sure what I'd do. I say I'd take AB, but then I'd probably just take Evans because I'm going to lean towards the side of give me that insulation and a lot of it. But not that I don't think AB is going to be fucking great for several more years. But yeah, I mean, I see a pick I don't agree with. I always try to empathize. Like, what are they thinking? Why are they thinking it? And there's usually solid rationale and logic behind it, and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, at least now with this offseason, when we're arguing age versus production, we're not doing it with a 30-year-old wide receiver. We're doing it with a 27, 28-year-old where they're still legit in their prime. They've still got at least 3 or 4 more years of production. Whereas like with Calvin last year, people arguing with him in the first round, it's like, even if he doesn't retire, how much longer can he really go? Odds are he's not going much farther. Even Randy Moss only made it to 33 as a productive wide receiver. And I mean, he's one of the greats. His body type profile is the closest to Calvin, and they get the crap beat out of him because they're biggins. Like Mike Evans we've talked about it before. Mike Evans will not play, 40 years like Jerry Rice did. It's reality.
Evans will break down before Brandon Cooks does.
Or OBJ.
Cooks is like hella young, but Evans will break down sooner.
Yep.
Right? Just like I would predict, similarly aged guys, Dez, Julio, AJ, AB. AB would be the guy that I want out of that group.
Which is funny because he's the oldest out of any of them.
But his style, first off, he's a better fantasy play at the moment. And second off, the style of game he plays. I mean, the way he plays, and also the fact that he's not a monster and his joints aren't as likely to just completely break on him. So, but I get Evans at 3 overall. Hell, I took him at 3 overall in a couple spots last year, and I caught flack for it then, and I don't care then. I don't care now.
He's proved it now, so the argument's even stronger.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's got a solid body of work, and then the drops. Whatever, man. The drops got – well, I forget what the grand total was, but it wasn't what you thought it was. It wasn't 50 drops or whatever certain people would have you believe. But they get so highly publicized because Mike Evans tends to be like the dartboard to throw shade at. You know what I mean?
He's one of those polarizing guys.
Yeah. So, whatever. I'm good with it.
Yeah, I mean, his drop rate is not any much different from any much his drop rate isn't much different from, Calvin or even like T.O. And, I keep bringing up these big-time wide receivers because they get away with this type of shit and were fantasy starters for years and years and years. It's not like we're just predicting him to be just some big wide receiver that plays for a while. He's going to be elite. He was a top 10 wide receiver. He was a top 10 NFL draft pick, which there's correlation to fantasy value there. Very rarely does a pick taken that high bust at the position, short of players like Justin Blackmon. Even Tavon Austin has come around and had, he was a wide receiver 2 this season, something like that?
So he was probably a wide receiver 2, but Tavon wasn't ever going to be a prototype, 100 catches a year. That wasn't going to be who he is.
I'm still shocked. Well, I'm not that shocked because it was the Rams, but I'm still shocked he went in the top 10.
I am too, but when you think about how they utilize him, they knew what he was. They knew they weren't going to line him up on the outside and have him do Julio stuff. It was never going to happen. It was never going to be a red zone throw it up target. But for the way they use him, he's a very valuable player to their team.
Oh yeah, it just took him 3.5 years to figure out how to do it.
Fair enough.
That's to me is the big issue. Like even Tavon produced, but it took him a while. It took him a while to figure it out. How many other top 10 taken wide receivers, especially, narrow it down even farther to like top 7?
There are a few. There's like who was Charles Rogers? Was that his name? Went to Detroit. He sucked donkey ass. I mean, there are a few. There are always going to be a few, but I'd say it's probably a safe pick. It's a really strong data point.
Right.
To say that's a top 10 NFL, like Kevin White.
Exactly.
Know what I mean? Number 7 overall pick. That's enough. That's still that combined with the tape is more than enough for me to hang my hat on.
Yep. And I don't know why we even bothered going that far into it because neither of us are numbers guys.
No, numbers are boring.
I'm trying to get into using them better, but I'm not good at it. I'm just like, yeah, that number looks good. I will twist that to say what I want it to say.
I let the smart people do my thinking for me, my numbering.
I believe you.
There are way smarter people out there. I'll let them do their thing.
Oh, I think that's about it, huh, bud?
Yeah, we went ahead and rambled, didn't we?
We sure did. You got any last parting shots for us, bud?
I don't think so, man. I ain't got much.
That's fair. Guys, I know we said we were going to record an IDP playbook last week, but we finally got Breeze to agree to do a show with us, so we delayed it a week to record with him. We're going to be recording that tomorrow night, and it should be out, probably within the next day or so after recording. I'm also working on the 2QB startup mocks that I did in the past. If any of y'all are interested in participating in those, shoot me a DM on Twitter. If I follow you already, just send me your email. I'll get you signed up. I'm trying to run a good bit of these before the month ends. I don't really think we got anything else going on, do we?
That's it, man. That's it.
All right. Once again, we want to thank ffcouchcoach.com and especially the coach himself for hosting us on the site, giving us all sorts of great hype on Twitter. And again, thank you to Jason Helkema and Ben DePolis for the killer intro. We really appreciate it. And that's going to be it. We're going to call it a night. This has been the Dynasty Playbook. I've been your host, Drew. You can find me on Twitter at Drew Dodson NFL. With me has been my excellent co-host, Tyler. You can find him on Twitter at HBombIDP. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week.